How is everybody doing? Day 3 of our husband's boot camp, trying to take our Shalom Bayit to the next level. So day 1 was that we are married for Olam Haba, and this creates us to be altruistic. This creates us to put us in the right frame of mind and not expect things in return. It's about me being awesome, not about getting something else back. Therefore, that led us to day 2, which was no blaming. Certainly, we can't blame. We're not perfect. And even if we are, there's no reason to blame the other person. It's about us, it's not about the other person. Today's is respect, giving respect. And this one is something that's very close to me because growing up, my parents had a wonderful relationship. They had tremendous Shalom Bayit. And my father would always say that respect is the key to marriage. You have to have respect for one another. That was his big thing, among some other relationship rules. But one of them was you have to show respect, and even around the house, you weren't allowed to say jokes that are acceptable, like jokes about marriage and about wives and about mother-in-laws. To my father, that irked him. You weren't allowed to say it. That he would say something like, "That's disgusting." Like you're lowering the institution of marriage. Marriage is a holy institution, and you're lowering it. That should be above reproach. And likewise, he treated my mother that way, like she was above reproach. As mommy, like there's something special here, and you just can't just you know deal or talk the way you want to a spouse. There's a great story of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky passed away in 1985. He was first married to a wife, had all his children, then she passed away at a youngish age, and he married a second wife, and he asked a boy from his yeshiva to drive him and his wife to a wedding. So the boy, of course, obviously, this is a great opportunity for him. He drives the rabbi and the rabbi's wife to a wedding. It's about 10:30 at night now, and the rabbi looks at the boy and he says, "Are you ready to go? Are you ready to go home?" And the boy says, "Yes." So the rabbi says, let's go see my wife, see if she's ready." So they both go to the ladies section, and the boy overheard the following conversation. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky looks at his wife, and he says, "Rebbitzin, are you ready to go home yet?" And the Rebbitzin said, "Well, if the rabbi's ready to go, then I'm ready to go." So the rabbi says, Rebbitzin, the rabbi is ready to go when the Rebbitzin is ready to go. If the Rebbitzin wants to go, the rabbi will go. So the Rebbitzin go, "Well, the Rebbitzin wants to go if the rabbi wants to go." So Rabbi Yaakov saw he was getting nowhere, so he decided to just stop this. And he says, okay, he says, "Listen, the Gemara tells us that there are two parts to every marriage. There's mili da alma and mili de shemaya. Mili da alma means worldly things, the cooking, the cleaning, the what clothing to wear, how to decorate the house, worldly things. Then there's mili de shemaya. That's between us and God. That's the religious affairs of the home. And the Gemara says that the worldly things are the wife's job. She's queen of that. She's in charge of that. The religious pursuits of the home is the father's, is the father's thing." So Rabbi Yaakov looks at his wife and he says, "I think that this constitutes mili de alma. I think this constitutes a worldly thing. So as the worldly part of the marriage, let me know when you want to go." And then she looks at her husband and she says, "The worldly part of the marriage wants to do what the religious part of the marriage wants to do." So the rabbi looks at her and says, "Okay, as the person in this relationship in charge of religion, I command you to tell me when the worldly part of the marriage wants to leave." And she says, "I want to leave in a half hour." And Rabbi Yaakov says, "Fine, we'll leave in a half hour." He turns around and looks at the boy and he says, "Listen, I was ready to go now, but she wants to leave in a half hour." You see the sensitivity of how the rabbi and his wife spoke to each other. See, nowadays we live in a generation where you could say what you want and how you want to anybody. You listen to people in the streets talk to their parents. You listen to people talk to their wives. You see people all over the place. Nobody talks with respect. Everything is a joke. Everything is belittling. Everything is putting down. And really, in reality, a wife should be above reproach. A wife should be somebody that we talk to. And it's a shame, like outsiders, strangers, we will be so respectful and so nice, but with our own spouse, we're not. It should be the opposite way around. I mean, that's human nature, and that's human tendencies. We say also, you give respect, you get respect. And that's what they say in the country. Even Chazal, even our rabbis say something like that. They quote a pasuk, Ki mechabadai achabed. Those who honor me, Hashem says, I will honor them. Meaning, if you honor people that I created, I will make sure you get honor, God says, and it would seem that if you give honor, you get honor. But in a marriage, it's not so much like that. Number one, your wife will always test. She will always test you to see if you really respect her. So she'll do something to try to like step on a toe in order to see if you'll, lose yourself. So sometimes in a marriage, we can't look at that. If I give, I'll get. That's nonsense. You give because you have a responsibility to give. Let me tell you a case study. So there was a husband and wife. We'll call the husband David. We'll call the wife Lorraine. David and Lorraine are married. They have a volatile marriage. They live good together when things are good, but when they fight, they fight. One time, David and Lorraine got into an argument to which Lorraine said some nasty things to David. David said some even nastier things to Lorraine. And this was starting to get out of control to where Lorraine now starts like screaming and yelling and we can't live together anymore. And you're the worst. And David says, oh, I'm the worst. You're terrible. And your parents are terrible. Your whole family's terrible. Lorraine started to even get even more under David's skin to where when they were both standing together next to a bed, David didn't know what to do anymore. And he just pushed his wife onto a bed. He never laid a finger on it. He never thought that he would do anything like that. He got up, he walked down the steps, he gets in his car and he just drives away. He got so perturbed by the fact that he actually put his hand on his wife in anger that he almost got scared for himself, scared for his wife. He didn't know how to deal. However, when you unpack what happened, you see when there's a lack of respect and any word could be said and there's no rules of engagement, there's no code that I have to live by. So each person is escalating what the other person says. We spoke about I think it was last audio or the audio before, about, circular things, cycles that go around and around. Then there are linear things where one person does this, the other person escalates it, then the other person escalates it, then the other person escalates it. And everything is a reaction, but just escalated higher. When there's no respect in a marriage, there's never an end to that. And that could keep going until who knows where people act in a way where they normally wouldn't act. Here, this guy, David, we can all attest to the fact that he would never, ever think of that. He didn't grow up. He thinks it's crazy that a person would ever touch their wives. And he's scared for himself. He feels terrible about what he did. And sometimes when we're in arguments with our spouse and we say things, we actually think to ourselves afterwards when we're calm, how did I ever say that? But when there's no boundary, when there's no givul, when there's nothing containing and no rules of engagement, things could really get out of control. So normally your wife will put a boundary, but you can never expect that. You have to be the one to put and set into place on yourself a boundary of respect. My wife could scream and yell. She could get angry. She could get upset. She could criticize, but I will never, ever, ever act in a way that's disrespectful. Not only, and a person has to also realize this, that the respect has to be also genuine. If there's no genuine, if he's not going to genuinely respect his wife, it's never going to happen. You have to go ahead and make that genuine. How? By understanding what the institution of a wife is. I'm obligated to respect the title wife. Just like in the country today, they could criticize the president, no matter who he is. He could be a senile old man like we have, or he could be a really terrible a joke of a person like maybe Trump was. But you still have to respect the office. You have to respect the office of wife. That's something that's worthy of respect. Plus, it would help you if you went ahead and thought of different reasons why your wife is worthy of respect. And I'm sure she is, because every person really is. So you think of reasons why. Not only do you have to respect the institution, the office, the chair of wife, but you also have to respect the person themselves. So let's review this because this has been a long voice note. Respect being probably the biggest key to a happy marriage because it keeps things in check. You put a boundary around yourself. I am not going to escalate things to a point where I lose who I am. I believe in treating people a certain way, and my wife is no different. If anything, it should be different that I should treat her better. Remember the story of Rabbi Kamenetsky of how you have to talk to one another in easy tones, in respectful tones. How a wife, my father would put her on a pedestal and make her above reproach. That's the way it has to be. And do not think if you give, you'll get. We're not talking about that. If you give, not necessarily are you going to get it back right away. Good luck. Have a great day. Hi, it is Erev Shabbat and the day number 3 task. Remember, the day number 1 task was make a list, make a tally, make a calculation of areas that you can improve. I had a friend of mine that saw me yesterday, and he told me, he said, I don't understand why you didn't give a number. Maybe you should say 5 things or 3 things. That's true. I should have gave a number. Top 3 things that you have to change. But okay, that was 2 days ago's task. Yesterday's task, because yesterday was do not blame. We're going to apologize for something. Today's task is a very interesting task because it's subliminal. It's subliminal in the fact that it's not one specific thing. But let us make a commitment that today, Erev Shabbat, as hot and as heated and as nervous as things will get around candlelighting time when the Yetzer Hara tries to, poke and hit, and every single person that's on this chat should make a Kabbalah, make an acceptance that I am going to treat my wife like she is queen of the world today. She is above reproach. Anything she says, anything she does, I will listen to. I will talk calmly. I will talk easy, like a person standing in front of a queen. And that's really the way that we should eventually, constantly, and always treat our wives. But at least for one day, Erev Shabbat, we should do that. Good luck. Shabbat Shalom.